Good morning, everybody. Keith here. Hey, I wanted to talk to everybody today again about Genesis chapter 1, verse 26 through 28, wherein it speaks about God giving man dominion over land, air, and water. And when we think about land, air, and water, and the old adage, you are what you eat, we need to think about those three things: land, air, and water. The human body survives on land, air, and water. The nutrients that we eat from the foods that we gather, that's the land. That's what provides the nutrients that our body needs to survive. And then if we remember that our body is made of 98% of water, and then of course in order for the water and nutrients to interact, we need the oxygen. And that is land, air, and water. When God gave man dominion over the earth, the land, air, and water, that means we have dominion over ourselves. Period. No one else. God didn't give man authority over another man. God didn't give man authority over other creatures. God didn't give man authority. He gave him dominion over himself. And when it comes to eating you are what you eat, you have to remember that when you ingest all these different things that you're ingesting, whether it be a bag full of potato chips while you're watching TV or whatever, you have to be conscious of that and understand that that is a true adage. You are what you eat. And the premise that the government, the Food and Drug Administration, that provides passage of all your products, whether they be GMO or medicines, whatever, are they your authority? No, they're not. So remember that when they pass all these laws about your farming and agriculture and everything, they're treating you as cattle by doing so. And so I urge everybody to get into their own history and learn how to do your own gardening. And I'm not talking just vegetables. I'm talking about herbs and flowers, all kinds of plant life and animal life. That Genesis 1 chapters 26 through 28 was meant to show that we have an intelligence to be stewards of the rest of life. Hey brother, how you doing, Dan? Good to see you watching today. And basically, when we talk about creation, we have to remember that adage of you are what you eat when we want to be able to create ourselves, when we want to be able to develop ourselves, both physically, mentally, and spiritually, or all three, I guess, physically, mentally, and spiritually. We have to remember that we are what we eat. And if we're going to be eating all the processed foods, we're going to be letting the government process us. So if you want to be self-administrating, remember that's what you're doing, is you're creating your own self by what you eat, by what you ingest. And then as far as the creation thing, we're going to step on a little bit different thing in regards to creation when it comes to language. And I've got one of mankind's best friends that I've had with me for many years. And he's getting quite old, 17 years old now. And when I first got him as a puppy, I created my own language. I created a language for myself and him. And that is sign languages. When I want him to lay down, I go like this. When I want him to sit, I go like this. When I want him to speak, I go like this. And it's a silent language. I don't have to say a word. And he knows what I'm trying to convey to him. And so when we think about creating in a sense of languages in these courts, when they're providing all these documents that have all this foreign language on it, you have to remember to clarify things. And when clarifying things, we have to think about the concept of the true intent of the words that are being put forth. And that's your creation. When you create things, you're putting forth your intent. When we think about numbers, letters, symbols, words, sentences, paragraphs, concepts, they're all part of language. And it can be confusing, particularly when you have silent languages such as body language, sign language, written language, which can be in numbers, symbols, letters, that are strung together to form words, titles, terms, conditions, concepts. And so it can be confusing. And that's why we have to become creators ourselves. And the only way we can become creators is by understanding ourselves, by realizing who we are and what we are. And it comes to so many different levels of communication. And I think that's where most people have their problems, is we aren't educated in communication. We're indoctrinated into one form of ignorance, and that's it. We're indoctrinated into a belief. And if you're going to continue believing what's in the past is valid for what's right here and now, and will continue to be in the future, then you're stuck in that spot. You're stuck in their indoctrination. But whereas if you start learning how to create for yourself, by writing up your own documents, by asking questions to clarify what they're presenting, so you can get down to the actual intent of their words and their constructs, then you get to a better understanding. But without asking those questions, like I said, you're going to be stuck in the past, now, and the future, and it's all going to come together as nothing but a bunch of collusion of confusion, pure and simple. Whereas if you can read yourself and understand who you are and what you're doing in life at the now moment, and only base it on what's happened in the past, you can provide for your future. You don't have to let somebody else determine that these are the steps you have to take. You can take your own steps. You can create your own remedy. And that's in fact what the law is. You have to create your own remedy. If you accept somebody else's remedy, then you're accepting their beliefs. You're accepting their indoctrination. We are creators, and we have to create our own remedy for every second of the day to what's just happened. Whether it be good or bad, we have to create a remedy, and a remedy is to bring forth the betterment, a solution to any problems, so that it doesn't happen again in the future. And see, that's the problem that we're having in the world today, is we don't really have a remedy, because people aren't stepping up and taking action to create their own remedies. They're accepting what's already there for the now that was brought from the past, and they're going to carry it into the future. So quit doing this and understand that you can create. You can create who you are. You can create how you speak. You can create how you act. You can create. And we have to understand that. So back to Genesis 1, 26 through 28. God gave man dominion. God gave man dominion to be creators. He told us to go forth and be stewards and watch life and see how it grows and see how it interacts with each other. Because we're not the only form of life. There was life long before us, and there will be life long after us. We are so big-headed sometimes, it's pathetic. And we have to quit that, and we have to understand who we are by creating ourselves. When you want to go around and let other people create you and define you and say that you're a citizen or a subject or anything like this, then you're stuck in that. When you're finally able to man up and stand on yourself and say, okay, I am the head of my household. And remember, people, all nations start from a house. I posted a post just a little bit ago, last couple of days, about familia, Latin word familia, and everybody thinks family comes from familia, and in a sense it does, but the origin, the first declension, the first definition of familia from the Latin term is household. It's not family, it's household. So it doesn't matter who's in that household. It's like a king's house. A king's house had many different members from many different families in the family sense. But the household is where it comes from. And each individual man is a household. When we go forth and become adults after being raised as minor children, and we go out in the world, we are now a new household. We have moved from the house we were in. We go and build another house. That's our household. That's our nation. That's our creation. And that's where we set our rules. And that's where we carry ourselves forward into the world, providing our remedies for ourselves to be able to deal with the rest of the world, to deal with the other nations, to deal with the other households, to deal with the other families, to deal with the other people. And when we go about babbling, not knowing what we're saying, then we're not doing anything but creating confusion for others and ourselves. So understand, Genesis 1 verses 26 through 28, we were given dominion over ourselves. We were given dominion to be able to follow our spirit and our mind, to lead our body. And when our body comes into some kind of problem, we're supposed to be capable of providing our own remedy. We are meant to be independent beings, but like I also said, we can't do it alone. We have to have help from each other, so that when our remedy isn't quite a positive remedy, then somebody else can give a suggestion. They're not supposed to be authority and say, okay, well, you can't do it that way. We're going to have you do it this way, and you have to do it this way. That's not the way it works. And we can see that in today's world. We have these communist penal colonies here in the United States called jails and prisons. And that's exactly what they are. They are communist penal colonies. Because everybody else is letting this supposed government subject them to their bullshit. And in order to come up with remedies, we have to start understanding the many different levels of communication and learning how to create our own languages. But remember, in creating those own languages, it comes down to that one-to-one communication. Because it doesn't matter, like I explained in the beginning of this video, it does not matter who you are conveying your message to, as long as the both of you understand, then it's conveyed properly. So when I go like this to my best friend, his name is Triton, he's 17 years old, greatest friend I've ever had, and he knows I'm telling him to lay down. When I go like this, I mean come here. When I tell him to, it means sit, speak. And I don't have to say a word myself. It's all done through a different level of language. And so, when it comes to these courts, and remember, you have to understand what they're trying to create. Because that's exactly what they're doing. They're trying to create a contract. They're trying to create a trust. They're trying to create a joinder. And you have to be conscious of that at all times. And the only way you're going to be able to do that is be able to understand the language of intent. So when I go like this to my dog, I mean, he knows my intent is I want him to lay down. When I go like this, I want him to go away. When I go like this, I want him to come to me. And that's all it is. If you don't understand the words on the paper, then clarify it. Ask questions. Well, what does this mean? Why is this in all capital letters? And the rest of it's in regular common English. What is this word? It's a foreign word. It's pro se. What's that mean? Pro per. What's that? You know, you got to ask these questions and find out what they're trying to convey. And that, And I assure you, when you start asking those questions, they're gonna tell you things like you're filing frivolous motions and this and that. Um, but you have to understand what they're trying to convey. So if they're not going to answer you, you got to find the answer somewhere. So make sure to do your own research and understand that research, be able to apply it to yourself, and realize that we are the creators. So we have to create our own remedy. And that's why my remedy, my story of my incidents and the information that I research and I put out is not going to work for you. You have to do your own research and see what applies to you and then do it yourself. And that's how it will work for you. I can put it out there all I want. But somebody else asked me the other day, hey, I need your help in constructing estates and trusts and stuff. And I can't do that for you. You have to do that yourself. You have to learn the language. You have to understand it yourself and know that I can't do it for you. If I develop an estate and a trust for you, knowing who you are and what you're looking for, but somewhere along the line there's a mistake, and then all of a sudden I pass away and you get caught up in the mistake, you can't blame it on me. You have to blame it on yourself for not understanding it. So I'm not going to do that kind of stuff. I will help you educate yourself, but I'm not going to do it for you. I can't. That's something you've got to do yourself. When you go into these courts like I do, and I finger them and I cuss and swear at them and I walk out without handcuffs, it's because I know what I'm doing. I know the language that I'm speaking and I know how far I can push them because I've done my research. And so when I walk into court 2 days in a row and they accuse me of practicing law without a license, I can walk out both days. I can walk in there again and be accused of the same damn thing and still walk out. So just went to traffic court for a move over law, requested right to subrogation. They got pissed off, bound it over to state court. Yep, they'll do that. They'll get pissed. But make sure you understand that right to subrogation is because they abrogated the beneficiary position to begin with. They switched it. They put themselves in the beneficiary position, and that's where you're supposed to be. So make sure you clarify that. Anyway, didn't want to make this too long. Just want people to understand you are creators, and it comes from that old adage: you are what you eat. If you're gonna keep believing what everybody else keeps feeding you, then you're going to be caught up in all the cognitive dissonance. But if you start feeding yourself and start eating of the nutrition of the earth, then you'll find yourself in a much better spot. So when it comes to land, air, and water, that which God gave us dominion over, our bodies are filled with nutrients made of 98% water and need both water and nutrients interacting together in order to survive, but they can only do that with oxygen. So understand that stuff and learn that you are the creators of yourselves, and the more you create yourself in a positive light, the better off you're going to be in this world. And I've got an extensive criminal history, starting off with second-degree robbery, assaults, and most generally it's in the last 20 years been nothing but traffic and possession charges. But for the most part, society doesn't look at me as a great person, but I know I am. I know inside I am. I know inside I am, and I know what I am altogether is a creation of God, and I am growing and creating myself ever more in a positive light every day from now on. I'll not let anybody else detract me from that. I won't let their indoctrination overcome me. I won't let their bullshit pass. I'm going to clarify everything that I ever see again. I'm going to ask questions and make sure that I am vigilant on keeping intact with my reality so that I can continue to create for my future based on what's in my past. Not believe that my future is of my past or that I have to abide by any rule, regulation, act, edict, ordinance, whatever. So anyway, that's all I got for today. If it weren't for you guys, I wouldn't be here. God bless you. Have a great day.